how stupid it is, but anyway, if everything is determined by the divine, then
Yes.
what role has karma? We say karma ka phal. What
Okay.
role it does it have?
Yeah. See, the thing is like this. Don't forget the gradation from the highest to the lowest. Okay. It is white on top, and as it keeps coming down, it becomes gray, and finally at the bottom it is black. So it is true that in the white the divine is intending something, but he himself has made the rules of the game. So when that divine intention comes down, from the white it becomes gray, and from the gray it becomes black. Okay, and we are at the black area. So the divine intention that comes through, we are not acting in the right way because it is black. Okay, black means wrong actions, and gray means semi wrong actions, and white means perfect actions. If you forget the gradation, then the problem arises. But if you don't forget the gradation, then the divine is originating everything. But as it keeps come down, it gets distorted and diminished. Remember that. So if that is
But
there, then
that
naturally,
distortion is also his will, right?
pardon.
That distortion also is his will.
Yes, exactly. Because why? Don't forget that he himself has taken up a challenge. When he is playing a game with himself. His game is I will put myself into the opposite of myself. I will put myself into the most difficult circumstances and I will escape. And who is that I? Every one of us, each one. But the problem is that we have forgotten what we have promised to ourselves. And when we come down, we forget that we have ourselves come down. And then we start complaining about pain and suffering. But we ourselves have chosen to do that. And ourselves are the 100,000 million human beings. Why human beings? Even animals. Okay. The, and we are now going up. It's the divine playing this game with himself repeatedly. Okay. So does that explain the thing? So your
Yeah.
action when they are, yeah, tell me.
No, no, I understand that. So finally, the reason is that it's a game.
That's right. That we have to keep that in mind. But this game is also ultimately there's an evolution. Don't forget the evolution. Okay, there are many things that you have to keep in mind. And the evolution, the divine is playing a game, but it's going on improving the conditions here in the black areas. Okay? They slowly, there are points of light in the black areas also. So ultimately, the divine will be here also represented by the white in the black areas, if you understand my language. Okay. In other words, there is a slow evolution from the utter black of inconscience has come out a little bit of life, which is an improvement. And from life has come out mind, which is a little more improvement. Then from there, the yogis have come, which is even more improvement. But remember that everything has not changed. It's only part of the physical world of darkness that is changing. Okay? And the next one will be the supramental rays, and they will be at a higher level of consciousness, but they will be in the physical world. And when they are in the physical world, the divine is showing that this is possible. The men will remain, the animals will remain, the insects will remain, everything will remain because he has not made the rules of the game in a whimsical manner. Yes, it's a divine will that is there, and he is not going to change the game fundamentally, but he is revealing himself slowly in the evolution. That you have to keep in mind. There are several things that you have to keep in mind. Okay? The divine intention, then the imperfection at the lower end, and the possibility of going up. All these things we have to keep in mind. Then it becomes possible. Okay, so so 5 minutes past 8 o'clock, we'll start reading. We have already read the. So I will read one, and we are in the middle of the para. It is the will of the Supreme which inspires us. Okay, so have you got it? Page 177, SABCL. The paragraph is beginning with, and yet this liberation. And we are in the middle. It is the will of the Supreme which inspires us. But I'll go back one sentence because the divine is acting, but he is acting at the highest level and he is acting through nature or the universe, which is already a diminished condition of his own consciousness. Okay? And then finally he comes down to the individual where the diminishing consciousness is almost reaches the final darkness. It is final darkness. Okay? So this you have to remember. So what is being said is that when we look at the physical world, everything seems to be mechanical. The river is flowing mechanically, the sunlight is coming mechanically, the wind is blowing mechanically. But is it really mechanical? That's a question. So we start from the sentence by itself. Okay? In the middle of the text. I've gone 2, 3 sentences above. It is the will. Okay? By itself, the idea might lead to a doctrine of the mechanical determinism of nature and the perfect aloofness of the irresponsibility of the soul. This irresponsibility of the soul, you understand? Irresponsible in the sense that the soul is not responsible for the conditions in the physical world. It's only watching. It's only watching. Sorry. In the time, முடிக்கல எனக்கு. अरे बाबा सुमा रे. So it is nature which is acting under the guidance of the divine, but already in the nature, the distortion has already started taking place. Okay, so you might feel that everything is mechanical, but actually it's the divine who is acting through nature, but with nature's limitations. So that's what Shakti is saying here. By itself, the idea might lead to the doctrine of the mechanical determinism of nature, which is absolutely what science also says, that there are fixed laws, rigid laws here that happen. And the perfect aloofness and irresponsibility soul. The soul is only a watcher, it is not doing anything. But the Gita effectively avoids this fault of an insufficient thought by illumining supertheistic idea of the Purushottama. The Purushottama is guiding nature, and nature is producing all the action in the physical world. It makes it clear that it is not in the end nature which mechanically determines its own action. It is the will of the Supreme which inspires her. So the question was, if the will of the Supreme is doing everything, how does karma come into the picture? So this is how it comes into the picture, because the Supreme will gets distorted in the individual. And the individual has to take responsibility for his actions. That is the law of karma. But the soul can escape. The karma applies to the body, mind, life. Okay? And when the soul escapes, it is free. It becomes only the watcher. It becomes the sakshi. It is not acting anymore. He who has already slain the Dhritarashtrams, he of whom Arjuna is only the human instrument, a universal soul, a transcendent Godhead, is the master of our labor. So it is Sri Krishna who has already, from the highest level, already taken the decision that the Dhritarashtrams will die. Okay? And it is being enacted in the universe. This reposing of works in the impersonal is a means of getting rid of the personal egoism of the doer. Now, this is another interesting sentence. The reposing of works in the impersonal is a means of getting rid of the personal egoism of the doer. Go on appealing to the divine, and if you go to the impersonal, okay, all your actions, do it for the Lord. Repose all your actions, give it to the Lord, and slowly you will realize that you are not the doer at all. Okay? But the end is to give up all our actions to the great Lord of all, Sarva Bhuta Maheshwara. But they have corrected that also, I think, because it is Sarva Loka Maheshwara. So Shabda is writing very often by Vijay Navari, and meaning is the same, but the words are slightly different. Not Sarva Bhuta Maheshwara, but Sarva Loka Maheshwara. Now there's a quote. With a consciousness identified with the self, renouncing all thy actions into me, Mai Sarvani Karmani Samyasya Adhyatma Chetasa. Okay? Repose all your actions in me by the spiritual consciousness. That's what it's saying. By the consciousness. Freed from personal hopes and desires, from the thought of I and mine, delivered from the fever of the soul, fight, work, do my will in the world. So the quotation is ending at the soul fight. But Srivdo is commenting, work, do my will in the world. The divine motives inspires. Motives used as an adjective here. Sorry, a verb. The divine motives motivates you, okay? Inspires you, determines the entire action. The human soul, impersonal in the Brahman, is a pure and silent channel of his power. Because you get purified, you are not identified with your body, mind, life anymore, and the soul is a channel, it becomes a channel. That power in the nature executes the divine movement. Okay? That power in the nature executes the divine movement. The divine is only giving, let this be done. It's an order. And nature is executing the order. Okay? Such only are the works of the liberated soul, muktasya karma. For in nothing does he act from a personal inception, such as the actions of the accomplished karma yogin. The accomplished karma yogin is acting in the physical world, but not with his own will. He is acting as directed by the supreme will of the divine, because he has been accomplished. They rise from a free spirit and disappear without modifying it. Normally, when you are impure, you modify the divine will. But here, when the karma yoga is accomplished, then there is no modification. You receive the divine command and you do it absolutely, fully, and rightly. They arise from a free spirit and disappear without modifying it. In other words, the action disappears and it makes no difference to you. You are free from the karma, the law of karma, you are free because you are not acting anymore. So you are only a channel. So when you get liberation, you become the channel and you are not. That is why the law of karma gets cancelled when you get liberation. But the law of karma continues to act at the lower level, which is your body, mind, life. And that is what explains, as I said, the consequences for the even the avatars. Okay? They have to undergo the consequences of their past actions. Okay? So the past actions are there. They in your previous life, before you were an avatar, okay, they were there. So those have to be exhausted. The new karma is not being given, but the old karma has to exhaust itself. Okay? So that happens. It's like I give you the example of the scooter, which is very, very indicative. Okay, it's very useful. You are going on a scooter and you switch off the engine to save petrol, and you do that 100 meters before or 50 meters before their destination. The scooter continues to move, although you have stopped giving it energy. So you are not doing anything anymore. You have stopped the will, your personal will has stopped, it is switched off. But the old karmas that were given, the old energy that was given, continues to move the vehicle, which is your body, mind, life, until it comes to a stop. Okay? So that is that. That time, the karma with the for the body, mind, life also will disappear. Okay? They rise from a free spirit and disappear without modifying, like waves that rise and disappear on the surface of conscious, immutable depths. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavasthita chetasah yajnayacharata karma samagram praviliyate. Gata sangasya, free of all attachment. Muktasya, free, totally free. Jnanavasthita chetasah, your consciousness is established in knowledge. Jnanavasthita chetasah. Yajna acharata, constantly doing action as a sacrifice. Okay? Karma samagram praviliyate. That work that you do has no more any, the cause and effect link is gone. Praviliyate disappears, dissolves. Okay? So this is, then you become a perfect divine worker. The chapter is the divine worker. So when you are a divine worker, to summarize the whole thing, again we have already said that once, and we can do that before we go to the next chapter. So just 1 second. Yeah. Whereas to be a divine worker, there must be total absence of egoism. Number one. The sense of doership has to go away. I am doing the action, no more. You are not doing the action. You are only a channel watching, and the divine is acting through you, and you are like a clear crystal, not a prism. The prism distorts, but the clear crystal lets the light through. So the divine will goes through you without modification. And then you are only the medium. So you the doership will. Next, desire has to go away. Aim and target. Okay? I have an aim, I have a motive. All motive and aim disappears. Then the presence of a spiritual impersonal action. Your action is impersonal. It is not personal at all. You are not doing anything. Okay? Then perfect samatha, equality. You must be absolutely unmoved by anything. That's the next chapter, equality. Okay? And then you have to be Trigunathita. Many of these things are repetition. Trigunathita. You are beyond the body mind life. In other words, you have lost your identification with body mind life. The soul has come out and is standing up outside the body mind life and is free. Then you can be a divine worker. Okay? So this is the chapter for the divine worker. And now we take up one by one the equality. What exactly is meant by equality? Often people misunderstand equality, and so it's quite a long chapter.
Dada,
Yeah,
is there there is a difference in between equality and equanimity?
I think it's a different word. Equanimity may be slightly, it depends on how you define it. It depends entirely on you how you use the word. So it could be, yes, everybody can give their own meaning. I could say maybe that equality is perfect equality and equanimity is slightly at a lesser level. It could be. Okay. It could be. It's a different question of definition. Your question is purely a semantic one. Okay. It's only a question of etymology and words. You could take it as the same, but I don't know if Shavda uses equality he has used, equanimity whether he has used or not. He even uses the word equable, as we will see. Okay? Calm and even tempered. There also there is gradations. Huh? You need not be very disturbed. Inwardly you may be very calm, but outwardly there may be a small reaction. Okay? That can happen. But it's a question of language. The concept should be clear. Okay? The word used can differ. It depends on how you are using the word. Okay? So, we've got enough time today. We got 15 minutes, no, 20 minutes. So, we'll read the next one. Equality. Samata is the Sanskrit word for equality. So, Pallavi, will you read?
Yes, Rangada.
Go ahead, read the first paragraph.
Equality. Since knowledge, desirelessness, impersonality, equality, the inner self existent peace and bliss, freedom from or at least superiority to the tangled interlocking of the three modes of nature are the signs of the liberated soul. They must accompany it in all its activities. They are the condition of that unalterable calm which the soul preserves in all the movement, all the shock, all the clash of forces which surround it in the world. That calm reflects the equable immutability of the Brahman in the midst of all mutations, and it belongs to the indivisible and impartial oneness which is forever immanent in all the multiplicities of the universe. For an equal and all equalizing spirit is that oneness in the midst of the million differences and inequalities of the world. And equality of the spirit is the sole real equality. For in all else in existence, there can only be similarity, adjustment, and balance. But even in the greatest similarities of the world, we find difference of inequality and difference of unlikeness, and the adjusted balancings of the world can only come about by a poising of combined unequal weights.
Yeah. So, very interesting language, but what he's saying is there's a gradation. Okay? Perfect equality is not at all very common. Okay? Perfect equality is the ultimate goal. Then there's also another thing. The inner being has to become first absolutely equal. Then the outer being, with difficulty, can be also made equal, but in secular yoga, even the outer being has to be made equal. But in the beginning, what does equal mean? Equal means not getting affected by anything. Okay? Absolutely remain calm and quiet in spite of the good and bad impressions coming from the physical world and hitting you. Okay? You remain absolutely untouched. That is the equality. And he has told you very clearly, we'll go through each sentence. If you have knowledge, if you have desirelessness, if you have impersonality, what does impersonality imply? The spiritual plane of consciousness, the higher mind upwards. Okay? Impersonality. You are an impersonal. Your ego is one way, therefore you are impersonal. Equality, not affected by anything. The inner self-existent peace and bliss. There is also a very calm peace, which is, if the peace is very calm, the bliss can be intense, but it can also be very low, low intensity peace and bliss. Freedom from, or at least superiority to the tangled interlocking of the three modes of nature. Look at the language very clearly. You are absolutely not affected by the body mind life, but it can be freedom from, or at least superiority. In other words, the less equality, but you are still being affected by the body mind life, but it's not affecting you too much. You are superior largely to the tangled interlocking of the three modes of nature. This is very interesting. When the three modes of nature are acting one upon the other, as I say, guna guneshu vartante, then you can never be equal. Okay? The equality comes when all these three are separated and absolutely static. In other words, they are all equal to each other. The tangled interlocking does not take place anymore. Mind, life, and body are separated and they don't interact on each other. So then, at that time, you can be free. That's exactly what he's saying. They must accompany now. Now he's saying they must accompany it in all its activities. In the beginning, it's the inner being that remains absolutely calm. And the inner being is not the psychic. There are three layers. First of all, you have the outer layer of body, mind, life. Then there's an inner being. There's an inner mind, which is much, much vaster and much more developed than the outer mind. Then there's an inner vital, which is also sometimes quite pure, much purer than your outer vital. And there's also a subtle body, which is much purer than the physical body. And this is the inner being. The inner being, and behind the inner being is a psychic being. So the psychic is deep inside. But you have an inner. Self also calls it subliminal, and he also calls it the intraconscious. Okay? So the intraconscious must become first absolutely calm and quiet. Inwardly you are not disturbed, but the old habits mechanically continue. Suppose you have got the question of the habit of anger or jealousy or greed, they will continue for some time until the old karma is exhausted and then you become free. Okay, so that's what is meaning by finally in Srimdo Yoga, it has to come down even into the activities. Even when you are acting, the outer nature also must have knowledge, desirelessness, equality, and impersonality, peace and bliss. You know, there everywhere. Yesterday I was reading something very interesting. Okay, and Srimdo was in jail, and when one his name was uh, Naren Gosai. Okay, he was the Goswami. He blurted out to the police the secrets, and he had to be murdered. And in the hospital of the jail, somebody came and actually murdered this traitor. And there was a huge rumpus which was going on. Okay, and Mana's father, Sudhir Sarkar, okay, our Mana, Captain Mana, his father, Sudhir Sarkar, was a young boy. He was only 18 or so, even less. And he used to give Srimdo a bath, and he used to give Srimdo food also in the jail. Because Srimdo was never doing anything by himself. He had completely given up all activity. He was in the Krishna consciousness. He was not doing anything by himself. So he had to be looked after. And it was Sridhar Sarkar's great fortune to be able to give him a bath and to give him his food and everything. Okay. So this rumpus, this huge commotion that went on, Srimda was absolutely unmoved. Not even a uh, question of what is happening, why this noise, nothing, absolutely nothing. This is what I read yesterday, and this is what was there. So this is it has to become into the outer activities also. This must come. Yes, equality and your utter peace. Yeah.
Dada, which
Yes.
book
No, no,
have you read this?
no. This is going to come out in Mother India. It's an article which Gautam Malakar is writing, and in the July issue, these details will be there. I, I do some editorial work for Mother India, na? So I have to read the proofs. I saw that. The accounts there are very, very interesting. He has collected all this information from many, many books, from all sorts of people who have written about these things, and mostly in Bengali. They are not there in English. We are trying in Mother India to translate all these Bengali books uh, into English and then publish them in Mother India. So much of the information is not there in the English literature. Okay, so it will come out slowly. It will take time, but it will come. I go to the next sentence. They are the condition of that unalterable calm which the soul preserves in all the movement, all the shock, all the clash of forces which surround it in the world. So, they are the condition. Which condition? Knowledge, desirelessness, impersonality, equality, inner self-existent peace and bliss, freedom, or at least superiority. All these things, they are the condition of that unalterable calm. If these things are there, then the unalterable calm will come. Okay? That calm reflects the equable. See, another word. So equanimity and equableness, okay, and equanimity. These are all words. You have to get behind the words and see who is defining the word in which way. Yeah? That depends entirely on you. So if you look up in the English dictionary, it's used in a certain way. But Srimna uses it in a different way. He uses the word mainly equality in the utter sense of not being affected by anything. But equanimity is of a slightly lesser order. Okay? You can be more equal than what you were earlier. So you can say equanimity. Okay? That calm reflects the equable immutability of the Brahman in the midst of all mutations. So, note the physical world is all of mutations. There is nothing in the physical world that is not mutating, not changing. Not even the Himalayas. Okay? It is being slowly eroded by rain, wind, storm. Okay? Slowly it is eroded. So everything in the physical world is movement, mutability. But your soul has to become absolutely immutable. Then only you can become a channel, a perfect channel. If there's movement, you can't be a channel. There'll be distortion. No? So, and this calm reflects equal immutability of Brahman. Brahman, as we know, also is in the spiritual planes of consciousness, the impersonal aspect of immutability and featurelessness. Okay? So remember that. In the midst of all mutations, and it belongs to the indivisible and impartial oneness, which is forever immanent in all the multiplicities of the universe. To understand this impartial oneness and multiplicities of the universe, you can give yourself an image of gold ornaments. Put 10 gold ornaments on the table. Necklace, earring, anklets, bracelets, okay, and rings on your fingers. Keep all these. Now, in our normal consciousness, we are seeing only the forms. But when you rise to the Brahmic consciousness, you start seeing the gold. That's the oneness. Everything is one. That's a gold. Okay? These are your. So when you are in that consciousness, nothing makes a difference to you. In the Gita also very clear now, it says that you become absolutely equal to the Brahmin, the cow, even the dog, and the outcast. You make no, you are looking on them absolutely equally. They make no impression on you. It doesn't mean to say that you don't see the differences. Of course, you see the differences. You know a dog is a dog and a cow is a cow and an elephant is an elephant. But that does not affect you in any way. You see, even you can see people of different characters, but your reaction to them is absolutely calm and good. Okay? This is an important thing you have to keep in mind. So, I read the next sentence. For an equal and all equalizing spirit is that oneness in the midst of the million differences and inequalities of the world. You see all the forms and all the differences, but you are not affected by any of these things. You see only oneness. You see? And if there is oneness, there is no enemy. Okay? So you become absolutely calm and quiet. So that is the result. Okay? In the midst of the million differences and inequality of the world. And equality of the spirit is the sole real equality. Equality of the spirit. Okay? Even if you are seeing the multiplicity in the physical world and your actions also are all different, soul is absolutely equal. Okay? For in all else in existence, there can only be similarity. So Sridhar is saying in the physical world, an absolute equality is not possible. Okay? For in all else in existence, there can only be similarity, adjustment and balance. But even in the greatest similarities of the world, we find differences of inequality and, and difference of unlikeness and adjusted balancing. So the world can only come about by poising, okay, of combined unequal weights. So in the physical world, everything is unequal. Okay? But the soul, when it goes out of the universe, it can become absolutely uh, equal, and it can bring down this equality even into the all the action that it is doing. Okay? So this is the beginning of the equality. Note the first few words: knowledge, desirelessness, impersonality, equality, inner self-existent peace and bliss, freedom from sattva, rajas, tamas. These are the signs of equality. Not easy to get, very, very difficult. In fact, the Gita goes very far. It says, Samatvam yoga uchyate. Yoga itself is nothing but samatvam. The moment you have acquired equality, you can be said to be in yoga, perfect yoga. Okay? So, we have 4 minutes left, and the next one is one page. So I don't think we can start it today, but we can, if there are any questions, we can deal with the questions, or we can stop here.
Rangana, one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Calmness, the calmness and this equality comes first, or we have to rise to it? I mean, it because
Yeah,
there is.
the soul has to rise out of body, mind, life first. Okay? If you want to talk of rising, the soul has to come out of body, mind, life. It has to become Trigunathita. So, in that sense, the soul is already, it has to rise to it. The human being totally can't. It's only the soul in the human being that comes out and becomes absolutely equal. But this equality has now to be transmitted to the body, mind, life. And that takes a lot of time. Okay?
Yes.
Sri himself had said very clearly that when he was in Baroda and he got the silent mind, which is his Brahmic consciousness and equality, impersonal consciousness of the equality, he found it quite difficult to bring down that peace into his everyday movements and actions. It took a long time to do. So because pulling down something from high and putting it down is not so easy, because you are trying to bring light into the darkness. You are trying to bring something light into something which is heavy. That's not easy. Okay? It disappears. So, if your question, yes, the inner being has to become absolutely calm first. First of all, the soul becomes calm. Then the inner being becomes calm. And the outer is still in disturbance. The best example we can give is when Srimanga was told about Mrinalini's death. Okay? He is absolutely calm within, there is no problem. But there were a couple of tears in his eyes. Okay? Outwardly, it has not yet become, later on even that disappeared. So no effect at all in the physical
Rangana,
person.
the
Yeah,
knowledge, desirelessness, impersonality are the cause of that calmness. It is not the condition, no. I mean,
cause and
it
condition.
can't be.
Yeah, they are a cause, that's right. But only when they are there, then you can have equality. So you can call it an condition. Huh?
Equality will have that. No. Only when we have the equality, then we have this. So which comes first?
Oh, okay, okay. I don't think it's, yeah, they are all simultaneous. You have to try to be equal, then you get knowledge. You have to try to be desireless, then you get the desirelessness. It's a, yeah, it's a way of saying things. But what you're saying is right. They are all simultaneous. They are all simultaneous. Even the sincerity is never perfect. So you can't say if you're not sincere, you won't get knowledge. They're all dependent on each other. So the more you try for knowledge, the more knowledge you get, even in mental level, there'll be peace and understanding will increase. So they're all interlocked. They're definitely they are interlocked. Can't say this has to be first and that has to be second. How will you get equality unless you make the effort? Okay.
Yes.
And so he said, they're simultaneous. One will give to the other. He says that very clearly in the synthesis of yoga. Okay? He says level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 2 is there in the beginning also, and level 3 also is there partly, but they're all mixed. Okay, so as you keep rising, you become more and more perfect. So they're all there together. Okay, it's 8:40. We can stop today. All right. I'm closing.
Aloha Rangana, merci
All
beaucoup.
everybody. Have a nice day.